Hey guys, Rex here. What is your operating system? That is your number one thing that will help you to survive whatever will be thrown at you, whether it be wars, economic collapse, power outage, volcanoes. Your operating system is infinitely more important than the kit you buy, the tools you have, or even the skills you possess. Your operating system is huge, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's completely overlooked. Many people focus on the lowest level of preparedness, which is buying items where thieves can break in and moth doth eat. Okay? So we can buy items and we can stack them, and I do that. Food, water, tools, ammunition, your treasures, all the stuff that you need to survive the end of the world, right? That's important, but it can be gone like that. I could name hundreds of different things where that would just evaporate or not be an option for you. The second you have to move off the X, that stuff is not, how much of it can you carry with your legs? That comes to the next one, which is skills, which are important to have. That's definitely way higher on the hierarchy of preps, I would say, that will keep you alive through any scenario. And so people, mechanical skills, the ability to hunt, the ability to fish, the ability to farm, the ability to grow a garden, the ability to defend yourself. A lot of guys go off on the tactical end. A lot of guys go off on the homesteading end. Important. I absolutely do those things too. I try to acquire skills at as many as I can. As I progress in age, those skills have to morph a bit because certain things go away and then certain things become new opportunities, right? And so one thing though, I'll tell you what, there's only a couple outfits, and this is not an advertisement or it's not talking smack, but it's very rare to find outfits that actually focus on the real solution that covers all possible problems. What if there's a nuclear war? That could very well happen. It could happen in 10 minutes. I think that actually eventually it will happen. I'm pretty sure we'll have one. I don't know if it'll be a global thermonuclear war or something restricted to the land of Shinar or what, but I'm pretty sure that's on the table. Even a long protracted World War III that would be conventional. And it could bring with it depression, all sorts of things could happen. I don't know if you guys studied the history of World War II or heard stories from the old people. I had a lot of family that was in World War II, and they lived a little bit different than we do now, because they went through the rubber shortages and where they're trying to, everything went towards the war effort, and everyone was pinching pennies, and only what you needed to survive you would keep, and the rest was all ported to the war effort. That could very easily happen today, and as spoiled as we are, and as soft as we are now, that would hurt a lot for a lot of people. Okay, so there's these things that could happen. Total economic collapse is also totally on the radar. Absolutely. You just look at the math, and as many strings as, good business leaders that are maybe in charge of the stuff going on right now can do. The reality is all that stuff, think about it like this. You got 4 years of those policies. Maybe they can make a dent on stuff if they pull all the strings correctly and play all the cards right. But if it's all done through executive action, that means the very second, the guy with the plan is not in there anymore, it's completely done. It can be undone as fast as it was done. Didn't we see that last time? We went from the greatest deal ever, and then the other guy got in there, and wham, just terrible nightmare. right? From the perspective of people that pay attention to that stuff. To me, it didn't really affect me, and we'll get into that in a minute. But that's the reality of what we're looking at. I mean, the stuff that is being done to correct the path now is not the gravity of the momentum in the direction that our nation is pointing. You can't stop what's headed in the direction. It's the sum total of the people in the country, their attitudes, their expectations, the entitlement attitude, the softness, the inability to want to work anymore. That is unsustainable. And unless you actually correct the operating system of the individuals, the nation will not be healed. We heard that in a book written in ancient times too, didn't we? Something to that effect. If you want your nation to be healed, then you have to do what? There's a few steps. You guys tell me what they are. You have to humble yourselves and then stop doing things wickedly, which is what? Well, the malfunctions we have today with the quality of people in this country. That's why the country sucks. It's not because of politicians. They're the perfect rulers for this population. It's exactly what we deserve because they came from us. They do accurately represent the culture by and large. Now, there are individuals within the culture who have a different operating system, and to them, it's probably frustrating that the rest of everyone else is completely cuckoo and that everyone collectively has to kind of pay for that. But that's just how it is. But the solution written down a long time ago was, unless you to turn away from the bad operating system, we'll put it like that, and turn your face back towards the correct operating system, we're never going to have our land healed. The principle, guys can take the religious route and preach on that, which is fine. And I do that too. But if you think of the function of what that statement is, it's talking about the operating system attached to how he operates and how he told us to return back to that state of sustainment under his protection by being like him. That goes back to Father Abraham. So the operating system is the part everyone misses. Okay? And we hyper-focus on equipment. That's what kids do. Kids are always like, what kind of gun is that? What kind of bullets do you use? How many bullets should we get, Rex? On the pie chart of stuff that will keep you alive when it goes down, and it's going down, what kind of bullets you have are a sliver on the pie this thick. And what kind of guns you got is this big of a sliver. And let's say you're really good and you trained for 25 years with tier 1 outfits, and now you're a warfighter. On the pie chart of your survival, that's the slice of pizza you wouldn't give that nobody would want. It's like the thinnest is still like a minute amount in what is going to actually help you live through the stuff that's happening. How about, and that's talking about martial skills. How about sustainment skills? That's a lot bigger slice. In fact, that takes up a huge majority. In fact, you could argue that the biggest slice on the pie is sustainment skills. Now, let's frame that in its fullness, because this is what you need to zero in on. Yes, you need the proper tools. Yes, you need the proper supplies to cover for certain things. Everyone should do that. It's like kindergarten level. Yes, you should have skills, basic skills. How to build a shelter, how to, have clean water to drink. Those are important things. How to, find heat in the wintertime. Those skills are important, but your operating system in how you employ those skills, that's the biggest part. Because I can have the ability to start a fire like a pro with 2 twigs that I rub together in a second with a shoelace or whatever, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that are really good at that. But if you don't have the proper operating system, it is not going to sustain you long term. What is the operating system I'm referring to? How do you roll? What are your rules for life? What are your gates, your filters, your boundaries, your social expectations, your health rules, your quarantine rules when stuff like that happens, your warfighting engagement rules? That's your operating system. Who you hang around, who you do not hang around, proper weights and measures when you're dealing with the community, how to structure that community, how to keep that community on task and focused, how to sustain the community. That's the big one when it comes to surviving what's coming. And there are a few case study models of outfits that have lasted multiple thousands of years and still have the same bylaws. There are outfits, mutual assistance groups that have sustained multiple thousands of years and have the same exact, to the letter, operating system and bylaws that they had before. Those are the ones that you want to go to learn from how to live. What's the number one killer in the world today, really? In a world where there's so much abundance to share, if we could only do that, but it's a world that's gone bad. What's the number one huge giant common denominator? What is it? You guys know what it is? Why we fail and why it's gonna be a travesty when this stuff happens again? It's failure to recognize the pull of propaganda to get you into places with people that you shouldn't be with, places you shouldn't be, people you shouldn't be with, doing things you shouldn't do. You are your biggest threat by not having the proper operating system and letting ego and pride be tweaked. It's unconventional warfare from thousands of years ago, same thing. They tweak your ego and your pride, hit you with some propaganda, you jump into your own trap or theirs, and then you're done. You starve, you go bankrupt, you buy things you can't afford and become a slave to it and lose your family, you die in a battle you shouldn't have been at, you live in a place you should never have lived, and you run out of food that you should have been producing, and you die from thirst because you never dug a well that you should have had, because you don't have the correct operating system. The operating system is the huge, giant tamale. And that's the focus of where we need to put our training energy into learning higher operating systems from above. They've worked. The proof is in the pudding. All of Western civilization hinges on their adherence to just a fraction of that operating system. The blessings and success and industrious freedom that we've had here in the West, America had it very well for a long time. We still are absolutely on the tail end of the golden age. We still have it very well. We live better than the pharaohs lived. But living standard, you have a toilet, you have water that comes out of the ceiling and washes you off with antiseptics and soaps that smell like flowers. And you can open up your freezer, and the poorest people in America can walk down the 7-Eleven and grab a soda and an ice cream cone for $1 with no job. They live better than Nero or Caesar did. Caesar couldn't get an ice cream cone. I think, Herod was the one who invented ice cream, but he had to have guys get killed trying to get the ice from the top of the mountain. It was like $1 billion for an ice cream cone in those days. Bring enough ice and snow down here to where by the time it's melted, there's still some left, and then make me a treat. I'm not saying we should eat ice cream cones, but the level of incredible abundance that we have now is going to make the fall harder. And the reason we've had that abundance and what I could call blessings is because, in all honesty, our laws and bylaws of the country and the freedoms that restrain the king's ability to basically separate us from our actual operating system. See, the Constitution was originally founded to restrain people from messing with your relationship with the actual mutual assistance group that was very common in the late 1700s, 1600s in the United States at the time there. What is that? The Bible. If you don't like that, okay, but you cannot argue that it doesn't work. It's survived 4,000 plus years. The nation that goes by those rules survived 4,000 years, whether you like them or hate them. It's been proven. It's the oldest standing bylaws in the world that have not been changed. So that's what we should focus our attention on. We should study the details of how those things work, how they hinge. It explains the gravities of how humans roll, how they operate. It accounts for the realities that we're all subjected to when the world... By the way, that book was specifically engineered for a people that went through a complete social cataclysm. Their nation that they lived in, where they had all their apartments and where they're renting from and where they're working for the bad employer. They basically worked for the government of a nation that completely went belly up. Like basically effectively got nuked by the 10 plagues. And the nation was utterly, completely wiped out. All the cattle, all the farming, all the grass, everyone's house had someone die. All the firstborn. They were attacked, diseases, plagues, fire from the sky. They would have been better to have been nuked. It was like Mad Max. And this operating system that we've inherited, the reason it survived is because it was written to help those people come out of that and survive in the desert with super limited resources in a huge group of people that has a hard time getting along, in all honesty. And they were able to survive and actually not decrease in order, but increase in order and fight entropy. So they went from a disordered state to a highly ordered state and grew as a kingdom out of a Mad Max environment. If that's the kind of performance record you want to have for you and your family, that's what we need to be studying. And that's what we do on the TiborasaurusRex Patreon page. You can check it out if you want to. We do have an entrance gate that you have to come through. It's a paywall gate. But that's, 50 plus videos exclusive. Like you're not going to find them on YouTube. We get into the nuts and bolts of that operating system, why things are the way they are. We do questions and answers all the time, but every day we have questions and answers where you can PM me and I'll go into the different details of the different mechanical components of that operating system and how they work. It's all written down, okay? So if we study that, you're going to find out that when it all goes down, there's going to be a remnant of people. Like if there was a nuclear war today, who will come out on the other end on top? I know the answer. It's happened before multiple times. It is absolutely going to happen again. Who will survive? And what will they be doing? Did you know they'll actually be celebrating when this inefficient, terrible, apostate world goes toast? It says that in the book. Rejoice. Rejoice in her, my people, the one as the whore is burned to the ground. That's how the world system is described in that book. In the latter days, as it's burned to the ground, rejoice in her, my people, for she's not going to be messing with you anymore, preventing you from doing things the right way, because it's a tyrant. When the tyrant burns to the ground, there's going to be people celebrating, and they will thrive. Now, how is that brought about? That's an important detail. You want to be very careful of the propaganda too, because there are crazy outfits that get it upside down and wrong. You never assume every detail of what our role is defined in that operating system. And it's not what you might think it is. We're not supposed to put on camouflage and run down the road and pretend to be army guys to make ourselves what they call an easy target. That's retarded. That's us playing army because we watch too much television. That's not what he's talking about. You know, I've had some friends that do spot checks, and we used to ask each other, all right, what do you got in your pockets right now? Okay, so you pull out your knife, you pull out your piece, you pull out your survival kit wrapped up in paracord. Is that the stuff that's going to actually help you survive the end of the world? Is your whatever model folding knife that you can do an X cut and chop trees down? That's cool. Is that really what's going to help you survive the end of the world? Is your little fire starting kit going to help you to survive the end of the freaking world? No. It's in what environment have you created in which you can use those tools? Where are you? How do you roll when stuff happens? We're doing a case study right now in a higher level training class on Patreon about Masada, the example there, and what happened and what went terribly wrong. That's an important lesson to learn. I don't know if you guys know about the fortress of Masada. It was built by Herod in the old days. The Romans put it under siege for, over a year? They built the siege engines and a siege ramp to take down the fortress. But what was the malfunctions of Eleazar ben Yair? And I think it was, what was the general's name? Oh, gosh. I can't remember offhand. General Silva was in the 10th Legion, and they had the place surrounded. Talk about the ultimate fortress. And in those days, before they had mortars and artillery and rockets and airplanes and helicopters and stuff, a piece of high ground like that was incredibly advantageous to have from a military perspective. But what went wrong to where the Romans actually got them dug out of there? Their operating system was wrong. Believe it or not. Just a few details that they missed. Just a few. So that's a case study we all need to study. Those are the types of things we need to focus our effort on, is how to actually be programmed properly. Because, unfortunately, I think most people who are into the prepper sphere, who are really, really into it, they want to survive and they want to help their family. That programming, we don't have enough respect for it, and we might give it lip service. And just because some guys go to church means nothing about adhering to the actual programming the way it was intended and written to be. We've reduced things to religious rituals and terms, and that's not what, it's all function-based. And so that's the topic of most of our discussions on the Patreon page. This is what we do, a pointing object training as well. We talk about everything under the sun. You know, I need to do a video about the discovery at the pyramids. Did you guys hear about this? Someone was asking me about this. There's huge, giant underground pillars under the pyramids, according to a new study that came out. So I'll be talking about that because, to me, when I look at, some of the stuff presented there, it's emblematic of how susceptible we are to propaganda and how we don't have any, it plays through in everything we do. We're so gullible. Everything that's on the rectangle, we believe it's true. We don't look at the methods and materials. We don't look at the actual, what was the actual study? Who did the study? These are important things to learn how to do. And where do we spend our time? These things are they're fun to talk about, but everything we do over there in the training deal is all focused at the same TLO all the time. Because when it comes back down to the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of it, the malfunction of every single issue, from politics to, to all the different stuff that's going on, from the war and the famine and all the stuff that's coming. Every single problem has the same exact solution. And by the way, what we're doing here at my place is designed to survive whichever problem it is. So then if you look at the operating system from the perspective of time spent, how much time do you really need to fret about the individual characteristics of which cataclysm will cause the nation to crash and burn? I would say all of them will happen at the same time. But it doesn't matter which angle it's coming from. The problem eventually comes down to the same thing. You are now on your own. Nobody is going to help you. If they do help you, it's all roping you into their deal, which you do not want to be a part of the breadline. Trust me. When it happens, you will not want to be a part of the breadline. Or will you? Most people will choose that they actually do want to be a part of it when they get hungry and cold and thirsty. So the problem, when it boils down to it boils down to the collapse of all civilization. But if the solution is the identical solution, the same template is applied across the world. And the cool thing about this operating system is that I can go to any corner of the earth and I can find someone in my mag, and without ever having met them, if they have been processed into that mutual assistance group, we are 100% compatible immediately. And we all support each other in the exact right way prescribed that helped an entire nation get through their calamity of having the world torn down from under them and thrive, like, with no problems. So if this is interesting to you, come check it out. I'll leave a link below. But I wanted to share that message with you because this is the time when I start to think about these things. We were delivered from the last cataclysm, and the last time the world went crazy and even tried to get us. The last time there was a Mad Max, we were delivered from that. And for those that remember that story and can implement the things we learned there and were told to do, you'll have absolutely smooth sailing when the next one comes. Rock and roll. You guys have a good day. Rex out.